7 o'clock.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Healing Heavy Hearts. Doesn't seem like it, but it's been 5 weeks. You know, a lot goes on in a few weeks. Sometimes a lot goes on in a minute or two that'll change the rest of our life. We got a chance to spend some time with the grandkids and all. Hey, Curtis Medine. Excuse me while I move this tripod around. And it was really neat to spend a little time with family. Only had one missing, so we were normally 20 when family gets together. Hey, Ed Sexton, you're working my buddy, Bubba Rishaw, a little bit too hard. You got to ease up on him. We're waiting on a friend of ours to come in right now. She should be here in a minute. But I came across something the other day, and I'm going to go back to it in just a second. But listen at this statement. Grief is like glitter. You can throw a handful of it up in the air, but when you try to clean it all up, you'll never get it all. Even long after you throw it up in the air, you will still find glitter tucked in the corners. Now think about that when it comes to life and grief. You know, grief is like glitter. You know, an event happens, and in a second, your life is changed forever. Never to ever be back to where it was. And 30 years from then, you're going along and everything seems like it's okay, but you know what? All of a sudden, a smell, a sound, a date comes up, and you know what? It's a spot of glitter in the corner. And that really hit me as an impactful way because, you know, we've a couple weeks ago with the unfortunate incident of guy taking Van Xander home, you know, we really lived through with close friends and family a lot. We lost a dad's brother. Uncle Ronnie died, and if everybody knew Uncle Ronnie and passed down Coontrap Road and saw that garden, he was always out there. And one generation back, Dad's dad was the same way where my place is at. 96 years old, still out in the field working it. Hey, Miss Irene, love you, Bishop. So I found an old message that we did 4 years ago. And I found something else, too, that, hey, George Brown, miss you, buddy. Here's where I'm going to start with this. I've realized that trying to figure out why God allows certain things to happen is a bit like chasing the wind and trying to turn the wind into something visible so you can actually see it. You know, we hear it, we feel it, we see its reaction, but we never really see it, but we know it's here. This is kind of like God, you know, but chasing that wind will simply wear you out. And guess what? To little or no avail, because it's going to do what it wants, when it wants, how it does it. And it's not going to change anything on how we chase it. And same thing with trying to second guess God. So, with all of that said, I really think that when we live through life-changing events, the question why is the wrong question. It really makes no sense to try to figure out why God would do anything. Instead, I think we should ask ourselves, what now? You know, what does now mean? Now that this is my new reality, what would you have me learn or glean or season to go through now? What is this now? What now is the much better question to ask. If we make the choice to let it lead us from our hurt moving forward, it will. Hey, Bryce and Mike, thank y'all for tuning in. All right, listen to this. If we ask why, it's going to leave us struck and frustrated. God may eventually give us that answer, but odds are he won't either because he's God. And, you know, really our ways and his ways are so far different, we wouldn't understand it anyway. So, continue to ask why only leaves us frustrated. And it's never going to satisfy us, even if we knew the answer. You know, we'd probably weigh out the reason that God would give us, then weigh it against our hurt and still not understand. But God, don't you understand? Don't you know? God does know. But he is there. 1 Peter 3:8. But do not forget this. One thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years. And 1,000 years like a day. So for us to relate to God in terms of our temporal selves on here on earth, our fleshly critter suits as they call it, to God's timing, which is infinite, never had a beginning, never had an end. Hey, Chris, we're going fishing next week, guaranteed. All right, so we can't process this multidimensional eternal reason against God's timeline. Isaiah 55, 8, 9 confirms this. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Bottom line is, we cannot understand God's ways. Now, I came across a Facebook post. It's a few years old. I'm sure most people have heard of Rick and Kay Warren, leaders of a phenomenal ministry. And hey, Miss Brenda, sorry for the loss you've experienced. I mean, a mom and a brother, two amazing people. I know you can relate. I know you can relate. We love you. I'm going to read this post by Kay Warren. And a lot of y'all that are going through, no matter what day it is, day 1 to, year 30, can hear this. Here's Kay Warren's Facebook post. Unedited, untouched, read by somebody who don't read too good. As the 1-year anniversary of Matthew's death approaches, I have been shocked by some subtle and some also not so subtle comments indicating that perhaps I should be ready to move on. The soft, compassionate cocoon that has enveloped us for the last 11 and a half months has lulled me into believing others would be patient with us on our grief journey. And while I'm sure many will read this and quickly say, oh, okay, take all the time you need, I'm increasingly aware that the cocoon may be in the process of collapsing. It is understandable when you take a step back. I mean, life goes on. The thousands who supported us after the aftermath of Matthew's suicide wept and mourned with us, prayed passionately with us, and sent an unbelievable volume of cards, letters, emails, text, phone calls, and gifts. The support was utterly amazing. But most for life, their life never stopped. Their world didn't grind to a horrific, catastrophic halt that on April 5th, 2013, ours did. In fact, their lives have kept moving steadily forward with tasks, routines, works, kids, leisure, plans, dreams, goals, etc. Life goes on. And some of them are ready for us to go on too. They want the old Rick and Kay Warren back. They secretly wonder when things will get back to normal for us. When will Rick and Kay just be Rick and Kay again? When will be ourselves when the tragedy of April 5th will cease to be the grid that we pass everything across? Nothing goes forward without going through that grid of grief. And I have to tell you, the old Rick and the old Kay are gone. They're never coming back. We will never, ever be the same again. There is a new normal for us now. April 5th, 2013 has permanently marked us. And it will remain the grid we pass everything across for an indeterminate amount of time, maybe even forever. Because of all these comments from well-meaning folks wounded me so deeply, I doubted myself and thought, perhaps I'm maybe not grieving properly, whatever that means. I wondered if I was being a little overly sensitive. So I checked with parents who lost children to see if my experience was unique. And I hear Amen Conner getting started out there right now. Far from it, I discovered. At least you can have another child, one mother told me after her child's death. You're doing better, right? I was asked recently. When are you coming back to the stage and the pulpit at Saddleback? We need you. Someone cluelessly said to me recently, people can be so rude and insensitive. They make the most thoughtless comments. One grieving father said, it wasn't all that long ago that it was a standard of our culture for people to be officially mourning for an entire year. They wore black. They didn't go to parties. They didn't smile a whole lot. And everybody accepted their period of mourning. No one ridiculed a mother in black or asked her stupid questions about, oh, why are you still so sad? I mean, that was 10 months ago, 11 months ago. Oh, obviously, there is no longer the accepted practice. Mourners are encouraged to, hey, move on. It's time to move on. Turn the corner, get back to work. Think about the positive. Be grateful for what's left. Have another baby. And other unkind, unfeelings, obtuse, and downright cruel comments. What does this say about us as a society, other than we're terribly uncomfortable with the thought and the physical presence and loss of presence that death brings? With grief, mourning, with loss. Oh, are we so self-absorbed that we easily forget this profound suffering the loss of a child creates in the shattered parents, family, grandparents, and immediate family and remaining children? Hey, Patricia Hicks, I know you understand loss. Unless you stood by the grave of your child or cradled the urn that held their ashes, you know what? You're better off keeping your words to some very simple phrases. I'm so sorry for your loss, or I'm praying for you and your family. Do your best to avoid the catch-all phrases of, oh, how are you doing? Honestly, I'm not doing worth a crap. Let's be honest. You can't answer that question. If you're a stranger, well, it's really none of your business how I'm doing. How's that? I'm reading a mother who lived through this story. Well, if you're a casual acquaintance, it's excruciating to try and answer honestly and leave the sufferer unsecure of whether to lie to you. You know, I heard something one time when you come up to a dear friend down the road and you ask them, how are you doing? Their first answer is, I'm fine. But if you're really close, the next thing you say is, no, this is me. How are you really doing? I didn't say this was a month. I'm talking about months and maybe a year or two down the line, where somebody that you've done a lot of life with, you can get that close to. You know what? If it's a casual acquaintance, it's excruciatingly honest to answer them honestly. You know, I'm okay, you just end the conversation. Or if they try to haltingly tell you that their right arm was cut off and they don't know how to go on without it, if you're a close friend, try telling them instead, you don't have anything at all to say, I'm just with you in this. Just tell them that. Hey, cuz, Ethel Glenn, miss you, cuz. You know, none of us want to be like Job's friends. The pseudo-comforters that drove them mad, just drove him mad with their questions, their wrong conclusions. I mean, even his wife told him, you know, cuss died and die. There are assumptions about his grief, but too often we end up with a 21st century Bildad, Eliphaz, or Zophar. We find that uncomfortable silence with words that wound rather than heal. I didn't say they wasn't meant to heal, but honestly, those words without really the experience of where someone is are best left unsaid. I can be callous with grief of another and rush through the conversation without really listening. Blithely spouting out the platitudes I hate when offered to me. We're not good grievers, and when I judge you, I judge myself as well. Here is her plea. Listen to this. Please don't ever tell someone to be grateful for what they have left until they've had a chance to mourn what they've lost. Hey, Mark Terrio, we miss you over here tonight. Listen to that. Don't ever tell someone to be grateful for what they have left until they've had a chance to mourn what they've lost. It will take longer than you think is reasonable or rational, even right for them to get over it. But that's okay. True friends, unlike Job's sorry excuse for friends, love at all times, and brothers and sisters are born to help in the time of need. Proverbs 17:17. The truest friends and helpers are those that wait. Listen to this. The true friends, the truest friends and helpers are those that wait for the griever to emerge from the darkness that swallowed them alive without growing afraid, anxious, or impatient. Hey, old classmate Ralph Piper, how are you doing, sir? They don't pressure their friend to be the old familiar person, okay? Anxious or impatient, all right? Wanting them to come back. They're willing to just accept that things are different. Embrace the now scarred one that they love. You know one thing about a scar? It heals, but you always have a scar. And, how about this? A scar or a broken arm. How many times that bad weather or something comes up or memory that you don't feel that broken bone or you realize that scar is there? A scar compared to the loss of the life of a loved one? Think about that for a second. All right. They're willing to accept where you're at, that they're different, and embrace the now scarred one, you that they love. And are confident their compassionate, non-demanding presence, compassionate in love, non-demanding, just being there, is the surest expression of God's mercy to their suffering friend. They're okay with messy and slow and few, if any, answers. And they never say, move on, or they're in a better place. I shared before, a good friend of mine lost his son. I spent, 6 or 8 hours with him. And the 6 to 8 hours, the only word spoken was, can I get you a glass of water? Period. So, the end of this says this. I don't know who needed to hear this today. For their situation, either where they're walking or they're watching someone walk, but I sure know I did. And I think we all can refresh our memory and things as we come across it to really say, you know what? There's nothing that I can say that helps their journey other than understanding that their journey's new and it's different. So we're going to meet for the rest of the summer on the last Tuesday of the month. We had a little bit of clerical error and it was posted the 5th, which we thought was the last. But you know what? When we're out there dealing with people that we love, I'm going to tell you something. A hug replaces 1,000 words. Yeah. Prayer is amazing because prayer is always heard. And remember the little thing about footsteps? God, where were you? There's just a single set of footprints in the sand. What does he say, my dear child? That's my footprints. I was carrying you. So don't be that extra set of footprints that nag them. Let them walk with God and just be there in love, hugs, and understanding. So we love y'all. I pray that anything I said tonight is not in God's economy be stricken from your mind and memory. But I also pray that anything I said that was, make a difference in what you say and do. God love you. Be blessed. Thank you. We'll see you at the next Healing Heavy Hearts. You can go online to chefkitty.com and get to us that way. We'd be glad to sit down with you anytime, anywhere. Call me by phone, 205-2665. Set up a meeting. We'd love to spend time with you. We have some amazing literature that's available in 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and 11 months. Because in 3 weeks, everybody kind of goes back to their routine, but your routine is never going to be the same. So contact us if any of this literature would be good for you. Thanks for that. Amen, Joseph. Good night and goodbye. God bless.